Today, we're going to be changing the drive belt on a 50cc scooter and talking a little bit why you should change it before it breaks. This is the after-work garage. So as you can see, we have the motor situated right here. Exhaust is coming off. So if we come over to the other side of the crankshaft is going to be coming out sort of right here, and it drives a pulley, which in turn transfers power through a drive belt to the rear drive gears on the scooter. Now, because this is a twist and go type of scooter, there's not going to be any gears to shift. So the pulleys dynamically widen and contract to give different diameters to the drive belt, so you get different effective gear ratios between drive pulley and the power takeoff pulley. So the first thing we're going to do is take the cover off. It got a little too windy to hear there, but removing this cover is just a matter of undoing a series of 8mm bolts. But do be aware that 2 of those bolts hold brackets for hoses and cables, but it's pretty obvious where they go for reassembly. Just make sure you don't lose them. Oh, I forgot. I'm dumb. You don't have to take that off. Okay, so I've loosened this up and I realized that you don't actually need to take the Kickstarter off. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this guy back up. All right. So here's our variator pulley that's attached to the crankshaft, and that's going to drive this belt when the engine turns. And when it gets up to a sufficient speed, there's a centrifugal clutch that spins up and then contacts the inside of this bell structure, which then sends power through a shaft in the middle to the drive gears that drive the back wheel. So as you can see, the engine's not moving, so the clutch isn't pressed up against the inside of this housing. So today what we're going to do is take off this belt and put a new one on. Alright, to access this belt, we're going to have to take off this 17mm socket that holds the variator onto the crankshaft. Best way to do this that I know of is using an impact. If you don't have an impact wrench, you can try to wedge something in here to prevent it from moving. There is a tool that goes into these holes. I don't have it, and I'm pretty sure it's one of those specialty tools that I will never see. But if you don't have an impact, my best advice would be to either try to wedge something in here, but do be aware that this is aluminum, so it's pretty fragile, or to just go out and get a cheap electric impact, which would work just fine for this. This will slide right off here. This is the Kickstarter cog. So this is what the Kickstarter, the backside of the Kickstarter engages in a one-way fashion when you're trying to turn the crankshaft over to start it. And then this is splined in here. I have to admit my splines are a little messed up because when I replaced the sliders in here in the variator, I accidentally forgot to put the spacer in, so I tightened it down without the spacer on there, and I gunked up the splines on the crankshaft a little bit, and as you can imagine, that's not great. And to really fix that, I'd have to replace the whole crankshaft. So now we have this end of the belt off. Next thing we're going to do is come back here and take this nut off as well. So the back nut here is a 14mm socket, and what's great about this is since it's connected directly to the wheel, if you don't have an impact, you can just clamp down on the rear brakes and it'll stop this from moving. There we go. Nut is off. Slide this guy off here. As you can see, the inside of this has the contact surface for these clutches. And these clutches here are spring-loaded, so when this gets moving fast enough, these clutches swing out by centrifugal force and contact the inside of this clutch surface, and then they tie the drive belt or the drive system, to this spline shaft here, which drives the back wheel. So without further ado, I'm going to just slip this belt off here, slip this unit off here. It's kind of hard to do one-handed, but this belt should just fall off. There we go. Perfect. Taking a look at this belt, it actually looks like it's in really good condition. There's no obvious cracks in the rubber, and the teeth look good. Though the teeth don't actually do the driving, you don't want missing teeth or big chunks of rubber taken out of them. In addition, the sides of the belt, which actually do carry the driving load, also look like they're in really good shape. Now, just to make sure, I went ahead and measured the width, and it's almost exactly 18 millimeters, which is both the starting width, as stamped on the outside by the manufacturer, as well as the width of the replacement belt that I ordered. Now, since the sides of the belt are what do drive the pulleys and are responsible for creating the different CVT gear ratios, this style or V-drive belt tends to wear down on the sides and get skinnier as they get older. Don't you wish people would be like that? Now, this means that a worn belt's not only weaker, but also can't achieve the same gear ratios that a new full-width belt could achieve, so you're actually losing performance as well as having a more worn belt that's more susceptible to failure. This belt, however, looks like it has a ton of life left in it, so I don't think it needs replacing, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw it back on the scooter. If it were worn or broken, I'd just toss it and replace it with a new belt. Installation is just the reverse of disassembly. But to get the belt back in the rear pulley, you'll have to open up the pulley to make room for the belt by compressing what's called the contra spring. It's just a spring that resists the force of the belt under load, trying to pull the belt to a smaller effective gear ratio. And you can just pull this back by hand and slip the belt in. And once it's in there, the spring pressure will just kind of hold it in there, and we can install the pulley back onto the scooter. And we'll just slide the belt back onto the front shaft, being careful to make sure that that metal spacer has stayed in place. And then just line up my, in my case, mangled splines back up to replace the outer half of the drive pulley. Then just replacing the rear clutch drum, which also splines in as well. These splines are in good condition. And then replace the nuts holding the front drive pulley assembly together and the clutch drum, and bolt the front cover back on, and that finishes the job. Last thing we're going to do is fire it up and do a quick little test run while it's on the stand. Make sure the back wheel's moving, there's no weird sounds. And then take it down and go for a quick spin, little test drive, make sure everything's working like it should be. With that, I guess we'll call it good. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on the After Work Garage.